Every caregiver has a story. This is Voices of Care, where real voices remind us we're never alone in this journey.
Today's guest has spent more than half her life caring for others. She started her caregiving journey at 19, while most of us are just figuring out who we are, and she's still doing it today, 25 years later. This isn't a story about sacrifice. It's a story about love, endurance, and what it means to hold a family together when the world feels like it's falling apart. Delia's story reminds us that behind every caregiver, there's a person still trying to live, to dream, to breathe. This is her story. Welcome to Voices of Care, Delia. 25 years of caregiving, that's a quarter century, all right? And if you had to describe that journey in one word, what would it be?
The word will be tough.
Tell us a little bit more.
I can't deny that it isn't tough. Ask any caregivers, they would say the same thing. And why is it tough? Is because I think for all caregivers, we all go through 4 different areas of challenges. The first would be the physical, the emotional, the mental, as well as the financial.
Okay. So maybe share with our viewers a little bit about your story when you were 19. Could you give us a bit of insights? What happened back then?
So when I was 19, I was in year 1 in National University of Singapore. I was supposed to complete my studies in another 2 years' time. And during then, I have a brother who was actually in national service. So physically, I was the only one who was around to take care of my mom. So it happened in year 2000 where mom collapsed on the floor. And at about 5 a.m., my dad actually came into my room and rushed me into their room. And that was when we had to call for an ambulance. And later on, mom was actually diagnosed to have stroke.
Okay. I'm so sorry to hear that. So when did you realize that this is not something, it's not just something that you had to do, but it's something that you are becoming as a caregiver?
So of course, when I was younger, right, I felt that it was something that I had to do because I had a very important value that I strongly believe in. And that is when my parents grow old, it is my responsibility as a child to take care of my parents because I believe that our parents made a lot of sacrifices taking care of us. And if I could share one example, and until today, this is what really inspires me to continue to take good care of my mom. Mom was working as a hotel cleaner in a 5-star hotel. And this 5-star hotel has been demolished many years ago. And we don't come from a wealthy family, but mommy knew that I really enjoy eating sushi. So every day, she will walk down to Takashimaya supermarket just to buy me a few pieces, 3 or 4 pieces of sushi. And during then, it was a luxury item. And in spite of having little for herself and for the family, she made that sacrifice to actually ensure that her daughter gets to eat this. And so for me, is that mom and dad made a lot of quiet, yet at the same time, obvious sacrifices that it was only natural that I could do this. However, this becoming part came upon as I grow older. I feel that it is something that has helped me to become who I am today. Like, for example, many people see me as a failure daughter, but I mentioned the word tough. Would I want to go through 25 years of tough journey to be deemed as a failure daughter? The answer is no. Because there are many unseen moments that nobody gets to see what I went through. So the becoming part was that I became failure, and it was a natural thing for me to do. I became resilient, emotionally, mentally, and even physically. I'm a marathoner. I develop fitness, activity, and I'm an advocate for it as well. So I think this would be it.
Okay. Let's talk about caregiving, right? Most people look at caregiving as just looking after someone.
Yes.
Right? What is something that people don't see behind the scenes that you have to do as a caregiver?
I think caregiver is the very unseen or yet seen is that we all know that caring for a patient means about going for hospital visits with them, being in the medical room to understand all the medical conditions and its complications that it brings about. It also means about facing the emotional and the mental outburst, the roller coaster journey of the one who's been caregiven. And at the same time, I think caregiver in the unseen is something that is not really spoken, and that is what are the sacrifices that have been made. So I think some of the real sacrifices could include, which we begin to see it surfacing out in recent times through a lot of social media awareness and article features, that many caregivers could have to even go through the extent of resigning from their profession to take care of the caregiver, because the common options that we could possibly think about is hiring a domestic helper. But in all respect, hiring a third-party helper will never be able to replace the emotional and the mental transference of energy to the one who needs it most, and that's a caregiver.
I think you said it really well on this point that, after all, blood is thicker than water.
Yes.
Family relations and that love cannot be replaced by a third party in that sense, right? So you've been going through hospital nights, emergencies, and exhaustion. How do you put it all together? I mean, how do you tell yourself to keep going?
How do I tell myself to keep going? There was actually a time where both my dad and my mom were hospitalized at the same time. Not one, but two. And that was in year 2014. Dad was stricken with stage 4 lung cancer. And mom had a sudden stomach viral infection. So she was in another floor of the same hospital building. So I think, how did I put it together? Honestly, that time it was pretty dramatic. I cried. I was asking desperately for help from the hospital staff. And I think the extent that I say, you have to believe me, both my parents are in the hospital right now. And who would actually say a lie, right? Like about two parents in the hospital, it could only be real. So I think it was very emotional. It was really, really, really tough. But how did I get through going was, I always believe that it's okay to cry. It's okay to be sad, because it is part of a way to be able to have the outlet, Once you cry, somehow there's this feeling that you feel better because it's a release. And then how I get to it was that I can't continue to cry anymore. I have to get to solving the problem. That means I need to go out to see mom, I need to go out to see dad.
Right,
Yes.
right. And did you ever felt lost in this whole process, your own career, your friends, even your self-identity? And what did you do to help you find that, recalibrate and to find that balance again?
I started my profession in the financial industry at age 22. So I didn't have a lot of friends. My social circle was very limited in the first 10 years of my career, up to about 30, 31, because I was focused on making sure that I earned enough money to take care of my parents. Because few years later, my dad actually retired. And when I graduated, I already anticipated that my dad was going to retire. And I want to make sure when he retires, I am financially ready to also take care of him. So in this situation, before he retired, I had to bear and help my dad bear some of the medical expenses. And mom was upgraded in her medical expense service, such that from a subsidized ward patient, eventually, right now, she's actually a private patient of a cardiologist. So in this case, the social circle was that I was also an introvert. So I didn't see a need to really go around to make new friends anyway. However, I can say that it was also a very lonely journey, because of the few friends that I had, there were very few people that I could be able to be open and vulnerable to share about my struggles. Then, of course, the career-wise was, I think, if I see it today, it is a blessing, because it has given me that determination and hunger to really do well in my career progressively. And what is the other area that you were mentioning about? What is the other challenge?
How do you, career, friendships, and even self-identity?
So self-identity wise, I think I had very little time to actually even focus on my self-identity. The identity was very much about providing for my parents. And until at age 30, where one of my very close church leaders, she actually challenged me that, Delia, you have been taking care of your parents for 10 over years. It is time for you to also consider, and this is real, it also meant that I did not date anyone in the first 10 years of my career. I did not go out to meet new friends who could be my potential partner. So I only started dating at 31 years old.
Okay.
And so then when you started dating at that age, then you start to discover what probably personal identity really means, because it's about being able to communicate with somebody whom you see as close to you. And of course, today, I think I have a delayed process of discovering my personal identity, because I think right now things are more stabilized. I'm definitely emotionally and mentally resilient after 25 years. Physically, in terms of age, we all know that when you're 44, the body age is different, but I defy it through fitness journey.
But probably at 44, you're in a way at your peak as well, right?
I think women or men, when we are in our 40s, as much as the physical age challenge that we face in terms of energy level, I cannot even have any days where I still remember when I was taking care of my mom and my dad, when I was worrying for them, I could be able to not sleep for that night, and I'm able to still recover almost immediately. But it cannot be so anymore now.
Oh, I feel you.
Yeah, you can't. So we call it sleep liability. So I think in that sense, it is important right now, my personal identity, where I start reclaiming, I want to be healthy physically. Because 44, you may be less physically energetic, but you need to compensate to be healthy and fit so that I can still continue to prolong the journey of taking care of mom, because she's still around and she's turning 79 in 2 months' time.
Okay. You know, the part about caregiving, right, it's not just the physical care that we provide, it's also the emotional part of it.
Yes.
For you, on the emotional part, what does it look like on a day-to-day basis? How does your day start? How does it end in that sense?
I'm glad that the becoming emotionally resilient really helps me a lot. I'm very regulated in my emotions, in my thought process. Every day, we could wake up, or the day before, we plan our schedule, who we are going to meet, what we're going to do. I call it the to-do list. And along the way, there could be some disruptions, some hiccups. And I think those are the points where, because of the emotional resilience that I had built and become, it helps me to be able to still remain calm to handle it. And that also includes even as a caregiver to my mom. Because as I can go through the day professionally, I could get sudden call from my helper to say, let me give you one illustration, which I also shared quite recently. And that was a few months ago, it was raining heavily. So my helper actually sent a picture of my mom in her wheelchair, waiting at the void deck, hoping that the rain would stop. Looking at it, I think the rain wouldn't stop. So in this case, the emotional resilience and the management came in. It is easy to just call and say, Mommy, please don't give me this inconvenience. I can't do it now. But rather, because of the emotional resilience that I had, I took 3 deep breaths and I told Mom that, Mommy, I wish I can bring you today. Can you help me? Can we go another day? I promise to bring you. So that calmness in my tone and how I talk to my mom really, really helped.
Oh, that's good, actually. In the hustle and bustle of our daily lives, career, taking care of your mom as well, in that moment of quiet, how do you take care of yourself?
So actually, many people thought, when they look at my schedule, they think that my life seems very intense. That being said, admittedly, my becoming also was such that I also am very adventurous, I'm very ambitious. I pack my schedule very packed for my work and also for my fitness schedules. So how do I find time to rest? Actually, to me, running is my rest.
Okay.
whenever I have a bad day, or sometimes in the middle of the day, I felt that the meeting that I'm going through is so tough, then my brain kind of like gets deviated, and I think about at 7 p.m. and I count down, I'm going to run. I'm going to run 5 km, 6 km, and I look forward to that. So that is my rest. The other rest would be, I actually enjoy having a good meal, my favorite food. And I do have
Sushi?
yes, I love sushi. I love sushi, yeah. I wish I could eat that every day, but that's not possible. It's not practical. But the thing is that I also enjoy meeting a few good friends, together, and to be able to catch up on one another's lives. So these are top 3 things.
Interesting. Because this also brings about our next topic of, you've spoken in numerous events sharing about your caregiving journey, appeared on papers as well. And you've also taken it upon yourself to build this community of caregivers who can also help others, right? How important is it that community building helps others knowing that you're not alone? So in your views, how would that really help the other caregivers?
I think it's really important, and I want to take this opportunity to also call out to every caregiver who's listening to this podcast to please be open to come out and say that you need help, and to be willing to accept help. Because I think many caregivers, as they become very sacrificial. And also at the same time, in our own culture, we do not like to impose on other people. We always want to not create any inconvenience to anyone's time. And because of that culture that we are in, we don't come forward. So I really hope that this will encourage many caregivers to come forward, and let's build a community together. I want to debunk this myth, or rather it's not really a myth, it could also be a reality because it's real. Mental fatigue, feeling depressed, feeling lonely, feeling unjustified, feeling why me, why not the other family member doing it. Those are things that we think about in the midst of caregiving someone else. However, the hope is that when a community comes together, we can come together to share our common struggles. And as we share, we also empower and encourage one another.
That's great. I mean, that's powerful as well. And to the caregivers who are listening in right now, what's one thing you want them to remember?
I want them to remember that they are also as important to the one that they are caregiving to. In fact, they are even more important. Imagine if your own needs are not taken care of, and if you were to break down physically, mentally, emotionally, or even financially, how would you be able to take care of this person? And I could even give one example recently, because as a caregiver in my current age, right, I have many friends who come to me to ask me for advice because of my 25 years of experience. So nothing to boast, but rather it's about something to give through the experience. And one of my friends, she's 45 and she's a mother of 3. She is a childcare center principal, and her father was recently having a liver failure. And being a good daughter as she is, she visits her father very regularly. So it was just one day I decided to text her and ask her how is she doing. And being a caregiver myself, it's not about just providing immediate solution. I would ask more questions and I'm able to relate to her. And as I relate to her, she's able to open up, and she started telling me that she couldn't eat.
Oh no.
Yeah, and the point is, being a caregiver, when somebody says that they can't eat, we don't just stop at saying, please eat. We will start relating that I can fully imagine that process. I have gone through it before. And I said that there was one time where I was in the hospital ward with my dad late at night, and a friend brought me a bowl of fish soup, and it mattered so much. So I told my friend that no matter what, you have no appetite. Even if you drink a cow Milo, it is better than nothing. Because we all know that if you are not having enough sleep and you're not eating, logically you're going to fall sick. And when you fall sick, who is going to take care of your father? And worse still, who takes care of you?
And that's what we talk about in the Recent times, there's been this talk about sustainability in caregiving, right? So
Yes.
I think absolutely right. What you have pointed out resonates with that part. If you can't care for yourself, you can't be in good shape, you can't be in position to really care for other people as well. That's great. Now, let's move on to growth and reflection. So how has caregiving changed the world, or rather, how has caregiving changed the way you see love and yourself?
I see caregiving actually as both something that I wish I could avoid, if possible, because I started at the beginning saying that it's really tough. But yet on the other side is, I think it's really about having that mindset because it has already happened. And since it has already happened, I can't control that situation, but I can control other areas that I could control on. And that's the way I think. And I see caregiving journey today as still being a caregiver to my mom as a blessing. I see it as a privilege. Being able to care for my mom the last 25 years is a privilege.
It's very nice, actually.
And I also see that because of my journey, right, this blessing has also made me for who I am, because if I have not gone through this journey, I do not know in terms of character building, of resilience, how sustainable it could be whenever I face any challenges in life. Lastly, I see it as a blessing because I have a very important mission and dream I think about, and I really want to create a close-knitted community of like-minded caregivers, not forsaking the fact that you have the struggles that you're going through, but are we able to build a community together to support one another and also the would-be caregivers? After all, if we were to swipe our social media channels almost every day or in newspaper articles, we are beginning to see the aging population is rising rapidly. Sooner than you think that you would be in that situation soon if you're not a caregiver yet. So I think I'm going to leave on with a few scenarios of what caregiving really means, especially for those who are the would-be caregivers not yet. So I see as a few categories of caregiving. It could be that if you're in your 30s to 50s, you could be a caregiver in time to come to your elderly parents and in-laws, if you are married. Secondly, is that if you are married, it would be to each other, spouse. And imagine, unfortunately, if the couple has children and the children happens to fall ill before them, they become the caregiver to the child. What happens if, at the same time, if the child has certain special needs, and then the parent also becomes a caregiver to the child? For those who are single, they could be the only child, and when their parents finally are no longer around, their friends become their caregivers, and vice versa. So I think that if you ask me, caregiving affects everyone. No one is spared. Everyone needs to be prepared.
So it's like death. I mean, like they always say, right? Taxes and death are the only thing certain. But now caregiving is also pretty much
It's very much
as well.
certain.
I would like to go back to your mom. And, if your mom could hear this episode today, what would you want to tell her?
So, just to share with you, this is really quite funny. Recently, when I was featured in the news to share about my caregiving journey, and mom's pictures were being put up in the articles, she hadn't known about it before that. But I did briefly share with her that I had some interviews coming up. So when she finally looked at the picture, this is a bit sideline, but it's funny because I think I also want to create a little bit of lightheartedness to those who are listening. Mom said, why did I not put a more beautiful picture of her? She's 78, turning 79, right? She's still very conscious about, how she looks. She say, I look very fat, I don't look.
Wrong angle.
It's very funny. Okay, so I think what would I want my mom to know, right, through this episode? I think I just want to say to my mom, I'm really very proud of you. You're very, very strong. When your parents were not around and you had to fend for yourself, even in your early 20s, you had your struggles. And to the point when you are 53 and you had stroke, it was something that you totally lost your independence. Being the daughter who sees it, but I could never see that part of her loneliness that she may not express. And I just want her to know that the journey that she went through is not going to go to waste. Whatever that I want to do today to build a strong knitted community, it is also not just benefiting the community, but I want to see it as my own personal legacy, tribute to my parents for their lives.
Okay. And to every caregiver listening, and what will you want them to remember?
I want them to remember that be it whether your caregiving journey is only a few months and you just started out, or you could also be a caregiver for a prolonged period of time. And I want you to know that you must remember to take good care of yourself. It's very important that you find time out to relieve yourself and do certain things that you enjoy. And some practical ways that you could do it in the busy schedule of caring for the one who needs you is to go for a short 10-15 minute walk is also good for you, enjoying your favorite drink and meal. And most importantly, don't do it alone, find a community.
Sounds good. I like that. Community is important. So 25 years, that's more than a journey, that's, a lifetime of quiet strength. Delia's story reminds us that caregiving isn't just about tending to someone's needs. It's about love that endures even when no one is watching. And maybe that's what real care is about, right? Not the grand gestures, but the silent ones, the patience, the sleepless nights, the faith that tomorrow will be a little bit lighter. And to every caregiver listening, your story matters, your voice matters, and you're never alone. This is Voices of Care. I'm Ivan, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.